When I started this channel, I was genuinely concerned that I wouldn't have enough to write about and consequently enough to make a video about every week, especially when we didn't have a game or during the summer. What do you write about when we haven't played or aren't going to play at the weekend without reverting to the typical cycle of clickbaity videos or regurgitations of videos you've seen on other channels? At the end of the season, I thought, well, the FA Cup should keep me going for a few weeks, and in fairness it probably did, and then I'd have to go with being very unimpressed with the new manager replacing the guy I felt deserved at least another year, or my unhappiness with the players we were being linked with, or the players we were looking to sell. Broadly speaking, I was expecting an unhappy summer once the FA Cup shine had worn off. The start of June came and attention was starting to shift from the last season to the Euros, and the main story for United fans, as I covered a few weeks ago, was that United weren't doing anything. No decisions on the manager, no movement on players, in fact no news at all. The Euros kicked off and the only satisfaction United fans got was that Southgate was confirming just what an awful United manager he would have made and his blindness to the quality that Kobe Mainoo possesses. Little did we know that Ineos's unfamiliarity with the way football conducts his business wasn't going to stay an unfamiliarity for long, as literally the second the calendar ticked over to the 1st of July, United got to work. It's been 7 days since my previous video, and not just the amount of change, but the speed in which it has taken place in that time has been nothing short of extraordinary. In that video, I said that we were being linked with players that made sense and that Dan Ashworth had surprised everybody by getting away from Newcastle. Since then, we've made a second bid for Jared Branthwaite, had a bid for Leny Toro accepted, while everyone else sat on their hands seemingly accepting that he was going to be going to Madrid, agreed terms with Marius de Ligt, signed Joshua Zirkzee, essentially sacked Mitchell van der Gaag and Benny McCarthy, brought in both Ruud van Nistelrooy and Rene Hake, pinched the goalie coach who hadn't even started his job at Ajax, and got rid of what sounds like every member of the medical staff. Even all that hasn't been enough, as we have given Donny van der Beek away for nothing, or for next to nothing, albeit with a decent set of clauses to increase that figure, seem to be making good progress on getting Greenwood through the exit door for a decent fee, and an even better sell-on clause, with the hopes of making sure Sancho is following him close behind. Oh, and we've got a game on Monday. I've been a United fan long enough to have experienced that surge of optimism you get when a new manager comes in far too many times over the years. They sign exciting players, they spout exciting crap, and have you counting the days until the first game of the season. The difference here is that our manager has been here 2 years already, but this feels like the first time in that 2 years that he's been supported to do the job how he wants to do it, with the players he wants to do it with, and the support team behind him, meaning that he isn't spaffing time and energy away on shit he shouldn't have had to do in the first place, but couldn't trust the people he was working for or with for the last 2 years to do it properly. He is now being given the type of player he wants to work with, but with two people with managerial experience to ease his load. He has, or will soon have, a medical team that he can trust to help ensure that the players are in peak fitness, not being rushed back too soon, and hopefully not injured anywhere near as much. He also won't need to be identifying talent on top of everything else he has to do, but he can leave that to experts in that field. One of the few things Ineos have been consistent in since taking control has been their insistence that the degree of change they need and want to make will take more than one window, at least 2 and possibly 3. But if these last few weeks are an example of how they do things, then we could be in for a very exciting and yes, optimistic few years. We also get the feeling that Eric could thrive in this professional football focused environment, but if he doesn't, then the owners would treat recruiting a new manager in much the same way as they are going about recruiting players, by identifying a handful of young creative managers that show promise, who aren't at the top of the tree but are climbing the branches stealthily and with everything in place to pick them when they need or want them. I'm trying to keep the giddiness in check because we've all been down this road far too many times, but it just feels so competent, and that certainly isn't something I've experienced for over 10 years and nearly 20. This is what we've all been hoping for, and by God I'm going to enjoy it. As if to illustrate the point of the video in real time, about 2 hours after I recorded the initial portion of the audio for this video, it was announced that Jason Sancho had agreed to call a truce with Erik ten Hag and had been brought back into the squad, and there was pictures of him training, and also that Willie Kambwalla was being sold to Valencia, I think it is, for 10 million quid. Willie Kambwalla, I don't blame in the slightest. He saw United being linked with every centre half under the sun, clearly doesn't see a position for himself in the squad going forward, and wants to go and play first team football. Totally understand that, and if we can get a decent chunk of money, I think we're being linked with like 10 million quid for him. I think everybody wins. Sancho, I don't really understand or agree with. It looks like nobody was willing to stump up the fee that United wanted for him, so United have not given, but they've agreed for him to come and train. I'd be very surprised if he's still here by the end of August. I hope he's not by the end of August. I think he's burnt his bridges far too thoroughly over the last 6 months to warrant being allowed to come back into the side. Let him train, get him sold and move on.